What if I told you that thousands of people are ensuring they have safe access to psilocybin mushrooms by just growing them themselves? It's not as complicated as it seems, and it will be much cheaper than buying it from another seller. In this video, I'm going to break down why that is, including why it may be more simple to do than you think, the legality of growing in your own home, and what you can expect along the way. So over the past few decades, research on psilocybin mushrooms has shown the potential for a wide variety of benefits, from treating depression and anxiety to just rapidly improving people's mental health as a whole. In fact, the research continues to show that amid the mental health crisis the world is experiencing, the therapeutic use of psilocybin mushrooms is seemingly one of the only bipartisan topics among our elected officials in the US, and many cities like Ann Arbor, Michigan, and entire states like Oregon and Colorado have already decriminalized them. At this point, you may be asking about accessing spores for mushrooms, especially if they're still of the magic variety and still illegal where you live. The good news is spores for psilocybin mushrooms are actually legal because they don't contain psilocybin or psilocin, the psychoactive compounds found in the fully grown magic mushrooms that give you the psychedelic experience. You don't have to worry about the DEA knocking on your door for buying spores. In fact, the DEA actually confirmed this in January of 2024. However, it's important to note that once the spores are cultivated and mushrooms containing psilocybin are produced, the resulting mushrooms are illegal in most places. This is why it's incredibly important to become knowledgeable about your local laws, as regulations can vary. So if you're like me, the thought of dedicating a lot of time to studying and learning an entirely new trade can be daunting. Luckily, there are abundant resources available in books and online that include step-by-step guides and instructional videos, even digital courses with experts that walk you through the entire process of growing your own mushrooms. Even for beginners, the supplies are simple and very accessible, from all-in-one grow bags perfectly designed to grow mushrooms to full cultivation kits with mushroom spores included. The entire process can be a pretty straightforward experience, and these products often come with their own instructions on how to get the best results. Even the cost of everything you need likely isn't going to be as steep as you think. A typical budget may look like $15 to $20 for a grow bag, $20 for a syringe of spores, which we'll talk more about shortly, and maybe $50 for any additional supplies along the way, depending on what you already have. For reference, one grow bag may actually be able to generate several grows, which is what we call the flushes of the mushrooms, and the syringes usually contain enough spores for multiple uses. In other words, you're going to get your money's worth. Another positive aspect of learning to grow your own mushrooms has been just connecting with the many growing communities of cultivators on Reddit and Discord, and even some Facebook groups. Even with beginner mushrooms, the community is quick to respond and typically very supportive. There's always someone willing to give you a hand, and these groups can usually point you to some really good learning resources too. There are also well-established cultivation coaches and courses that can give you access to professionals who can show you all of the ins and outs, as you'll be able to find with a quick search. Spores for these and a variety of other mushrooms are pretty widely available. However, you should always make sure to navigate the market wisely. There are always ongoing conversations and online communities and forums about how to find reputable sources that cultivators trust and use. You should definitely pay attention to what they have to say and what the most common and trustworthy cultivators are. Not all sellers are honest about the quality of the strain of the spores they provide. The internet is rife with scams, and cultivators are no exception. That's why it's essential to not only listen to the community recommendations, but also read a wide range of reviews. Seeing what others have to say about their purchases can help you avoid common pitfalls and point you towards sellers who consistently deliver what they promise. But if you're overwhelmed by the number of choices out there, you can check the course we linked in the description. It includes links to pre-configured mushroom grow kits designed specifically for beginners. These kits remove much of the guesswork and complexity involved in getting started and will have you ready to jump into the basics of cultivation. As exciting as it is to start a new adventure growing your own mushrooms, the entire process from inoculating the substrate or inserting the spores into your grow environment to when the mushrooms are fruiting and ready to be harvested can take a few months. Maybe the most useful piece of advice I got was be patient. But the good news is, honestly, it was a really fun process. While it's important to observe the environment for any possible contamination along the way, most of your job is just going to be waiting. It's during these periods that you can move at your own pace and really learn more about the right conditions for mushrooms to begin fruiting and preparing for that stage. Now, speaking of the fruiting stage, another big reason why growing your own mushrooms is becoming so popular is because of the yield you may actually get. The amount of mushrooms you can harvest can be fairly large depending on the conditions you manage and maintain in your growing environment. For instance, if everything goes to plan, your first harvest might yield about 250 grams of fresh mushrooms. After drying, you could end up with around 25 grams of dried mushrooms. So to put that into perspective, the average recreational dose for psilocybin mushrooms is between 1 to 2 grams of dried product. What's more is these substrate bags usually support multiple flushes, which means that you harvest from a single inoculation several times. This means you won't just have a continuous supply of mushrooms for personal use or sharing, but you'll be able to understand and perfect your cultivation techniques techniques even faster without having to waste so much money on buying new supplies. Each cycle offers an opportunity to tweak and improve your setup so you can ensure you have an even more successful flush in the future. A huge part of the boom and demand for learning how to grow mushrooms comes from the rapid increase in the number of people turning to microdosing psilocybin for its potential benefits. These range from enhanced creativity and increased focus to improved emotional well-being. This growing trend has naturally led to a higher demand for reliable, high-quality psilocybin. Microdosing involves taking a sub-perceptual dose of psilocybin, which means the doses are small enough to not induce a full psychedelic experience, but are just enough to activate the subtle physiological and psychological benefits. Now, given the delicate nature of this practice, it is very important to take note of precision in dosing, potency, and purity. Even small mistakes in any of these factors can significantly alter the effects and your overall microdosing experience. Plus, not all sellers are knowledgeable about the strains they offer, and not everyone follows the strict procedures that are necessary for preparing proper microdoses. This can really be harmful to people who need exact microdoses for therapeutic reasons. By growing your own mushrooms, you can control every aspect of the process, from selecting the right strains to adjusting the growing conditions to optimize for the potency you need. The rising popularity of growing your own mushrooms isn't just a trend. It's a movement towards self-sufficiency, wellness, and a meaningful connection with the community. Throughout this process, you're not just cultivating mushrooms, you're cultivating a deeper understanding of nature and a sense of empowerment and even a supportive network of fellow growers. Click on this video to learn how psychedelics can unlock your superhuman powers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.